You're listening to the Downeast Mike podcast, the quirky little podcast from Maine. And now, your host, Downeast Mike.
Good morning, everybody. This is Downeast Mike, your genial host of the Downeast Mike podcast, coming to you live from Downeast, Maine. Downeast Mike episode number 135, news and commentary for the day of Monday, July 6, 2026, in the year of our Lord. Our motto here is, some of this is whimsy, some of this is true, and the interpretation of it all is entirely up to you. And did you know that the Downeast Mike podcast contains absolutely no mean words, just wholesome goodness from Downeast, Maine? We're sort of like a blueberry pie podcast. I was thinking this morning, this is the world, the land of limitless opportunities, boundless opportunities. But the issue being that they're not necessarily good opportunities. It's just that they're limitless. In today's episode, we have a one-man submarine stolen from Maine. It triggers an alert. The FBI, that's from 1976. The FBI bust Dynamite Hoarders in Portland, 1976. Celebrating Truckers' Paunch, 1976. And the Cape Porpoise Sea Serpent from 1934. Some great stories. We're going to start off early today with a word of the day. I hope I can say this right. Onomatopoeia. Yeah, I did it. There was a little button there you click and it pronounces it for you. Onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. It's a noun. And it means the naming of a thing or an action by a vocal imitation of the sound associated with it. It's the creation of words that imitate natural sounds such as buzz or hiss. We knew a guy named Buzz once. We called him Buzz because he mowed his lawn continuously. Well, his wife actually rode the ride-on mower and mowed the lawn, and he went around with a weed whacker. So we called them Toot and Buzz because people go by and toot their horn at him. We got off track. Onomatopoeia is the word of the day, and let's give some example words. Buffoon, the word meaning a stupid person, is meant to sound like a person puffing out their cheeks. It originally comes from the Italian word buffare, which actually translates to a person puffing out their cheeks. It all connects because in the 1500s, buffoon was a style of comedic dance where people would puff out their cheeks to look more foolish. Another word, we just made it as far as the bees on this one. Bumblebee. Before speakers settled on bumblebee, this little creature was referred to as humblebee, Dumbledore, and Bumble. All of them were meant to represent the buzzing of a bee. All right, so we're going to start off with a story from 1976. This is July 6, 1976, and it was in the Bangor Daily News. The Navy alert was on for a small sub. The Coast Guard and naval officials confirmed Monday. Let's get to that page here. Just be a second. Yes, a one-man submarine, which was believed to have been stolen from Maine years ago. The officials said, however, that the submarine was not sighted during the day Sunday, in that it no longer considered the sub to be any threat. There had been some concern raised that the submarine might have been stolen by a terrorist group. This is 1976. Reports of a stolen sub, the first heard of in the state, led the New York Times to contact the Bangor Daily News, which led them to George Kittredge of South Thomaston. He's a retired naval captain, and he makes submarines for sale. He confirmed that he had a sub stolen a year ago after a purchaser neglected to keep up the payments. Now, if you were a terrorist, would you default on your loan to buy a sub that you're going to use that way? Kittredge said that the FBI contacted him 2 weeks ago about the submarine in connection with its investigation, and then Kittredge had contacted police about the missing submarine after the purchaser, who was unidentified, made off with the craft without fully paying for it. And we already said that, or he already did. He said, "Well, why is it?" He keeps calling the guy and saying, "Where's my money?" This is all about Operation Sail in New York Harbor, and President Ford was going to be a spectator, so they're worried about this $7,000 frost green submarine. But Kittredge, who was the builder, he had hired a private investigator to try to track it down. I almost expect a Clouseau type thing going to look for this green submarine. He has sold 14 of the submarines, and the latest going to a school in California, the Brooks Institute of Photography. I wouldn't go down in one of those submarines. He said some submarines for Norwegian firms involved in offshore oil drilling. The subs, a modified version of the model now built, will be used in depths up to 600 feet to inspect the legs of the oil drilling rigs. Oh, that's a good-looking leg. Look at that. 600 feet now. One aspect of the mystery which remained unexplained was the report that the Kittredge submarine was stolen from Bar Harbor. And Kittredge said he does not know where officials got that impression, except to observe that probably from New York, the only place they know of in Maine is Bar Harbor. The New York Times said Monday that it was using the Kittredge story as part of its roundup story on Operation Sail. That's quite the story. Here's another story from this day in 1976. The FBI agents, the G-men, they had confiscated more dynamite Monday from a Portland, Maine home. One of 2 men arrested in what they think may be a breakthrough to a series of bombings in 3 New England states. The agents found a full case of dynamite containing 25 2-pound sticks, a partial case of 33 sticks, each 36 inches long, and 600 blasting caps, can't have enough of them, and the more timing devices in the home of Joseph Acito, age 23. It's important that we know his age, right? The FBI said the dynamite, like 100-plus sticks recovered Sunday, was stolen from a New Boston, New Hampshire construction firm on May 2nd. 2 other men were sought Sunday in the continuing investigation through Maine to Massachusetts. One was identified as Richard Piccarello, 27, of Portland, an ex-convict who was a member of SCA, a Maine prisoners' rights organization. SCA, I like that. FBI agents late Monday identified the 4th man as Edward Gillian Jr., 28, of Boston's Dorchester section. Acito, also a member of SCA, was arrested Sunday after the car he was driving crashed while authorities pursued it from the scene of an apparent bombing attempt at a state police barracks in Topsfield, Mass. Maybe they should have organized and got some education while they were in there. 2 men were dropped off at the barracks and eluded police. You think about that sentence for a moment. 2 men were dropped off at the barracks and eluded police. Inside the car, police found 2 bombs made of dynamite sticks and a woman's purse filled with dynamite, as well as various weapons. More dynamite and weapons were found in the basement of Acito's Portland home Sunday, but FBI agents returned there Monday and found still another cache. This place was just ready to rock and roll, wasn't it? Also found Sunday was literature of the Sam Melville Jonathan Jackson Unit, a group which claimed credit for the bombing of Boston's Suffolk County Courthouse on April 22nd. That blast injured 22 persons. probably all in there for traffic tickets. State officials and the FBI said they were investigating similarities between the explosives and equipment which has been confiscated and those used in 11 bombings in Mass, New Hampshire, and Maine. I forgot that 1976 was such an explosive time here in Maine. It's very obvious that we have a substantial siege of dynamite. I think the public can be a little bit relieved. Well, I'm glad to get that off the hands of the SCAR group. Aceto and Everett Carlson, 38, who was arrested at his Portland home later Sunday, have both been charged with interstate transportation of explosives, etc., etc. Now, Aceto's car had been tailed from Portland to Mass by Maine State Police, who said they suspected Aceto and Piccarello of planning a bank holdup. They must have had inside tips. FBI spokesman Richard Bates said there presently was nothing linking the evidence obtained Sunday with the bombings Friday of a plane at Logan International Airport in Boston or a truck at a Boston National Guard armory, but that possibility was being investigated. There was a good line here at the end. Or maybe on. Meanwhile, police in Revere, Mass. were investigating the bombing Sunday night of a First National Bank of Boston branch, which blew out windows and the front door of the building. No one was injured. Police said a caller told them a bomb was thrown from a car through the window of the bank. It's chaotic. Just dynamite and bombs. Let's take a break here and let's look at this ad from Lum's Family Restaurant. It was at 643 Broadway in Bangor. You could get Lum's Thrifty 150. And you remember the drugstore ice cream sundae glasses? They were tall and thin. They'd put sundaes or soda, like a soda fountain glass. It's got that picture there with a Thrifty 150 on it. And for this price, you get a delicious quarter-pound beef burger, golden brown fries, and a frosty schooner of beer or a large soft drink. It was only $1.50, and the children's special is 99 cents. And the summer hours were open till 1 a.m. every day, so you go out and party a bit and then go get the Thrifty 50, the $1.50 burger, fries, and beer at Lum's Family Restaurant, 643 Broadway in Bangor. Now let's move on to our trucker story. Truckers attaining myth of the romantic heroes. Bangor's Paul Bunyan statue may have to move over if a monument is ever raised in honor of Maine's truckers. These so-called knights of the open road are quickly overtaking the fabled lumberman as the working man's romantic hero. So the working man is romanticizing truckers. From our earliest days, American myths usually have centered on an aura of fierce independence, a hard-working and in most cases a hard-living lifestyle. Lumbermen have easily fit that bill, but truckers are moving in. To look at either type, I guess this was the era of CB radios, wasn't it? To look at either type, one would hardly guess them champions of the masses. Their garb is plain, but more importantly, it is practical. And a closer look, however, shows that the clothes of each in its own way, reflects a certain jaunty spirit. Photographs gathered by the Northeast Archives of Folklore and Oral History at the University of Maine from that date from the turn of the century show woodsmen at work in the forest and on the rivers during lumbering's heyday. Did lumbering have a heyday? During lumber's heyday. The men are dressed in work pants, work shirts, work boots, and hats, which is nothing out of the ordinary except for the way in which they wore their garb. Suspenders were obviously a very in thing. A check with retired lumberman George Knox of Eddington reveals that they were a fad based on a very practical purpose. They held your pants up. Some people didn't have hips enough to hold them, and belts didn't do a good enough job. They were quite the thing. Lumbermen had good reason to wear hats, too. The headgear protected them from the elements, and if the man was thirsty, the hat could be used as a scoop. Caps of various design appear in most photographs, but most of the men seem to have fancied, we got to skip up here, lost our place. We'll find it, and I know it's there. A store that specializes in working gear, there we are, shows that even while cotton undershirts considered basic, they have some polyester in them. So they go on there a bit. Like their woodsman brothers before them, truckers often wear the laced-up work boot, little changed over 3/4 of a century. Some do give in, though, to a cowboy-type boot, which is considered another influence from the West. We got to get up to our trucker's Paunch piece here. It has a picture of Night of the Open Road. It's trucker Osmer Clark. He swings up into his rig for a haul down the I-95 freeway. Dressed in his working uniform of work T-shirt and pants, Clark sports the celebrated trucker's Paunch. And you know, the sad thing is he actually looks skinny compared to a lot of the truckers around today. Whoop, I shouldn't have said that. Today, a trucker's garbage is plain and practical, but they do have the advantage of synthetic materials, right? It has long been the American way to admire the commonplace and the hardworking common man. Indeed, a certified, fancy-fangled way of dress is considered suspect. Whether the individual lives up to the image, truckers serve to carry on a great old American belief in the working man. His simple dress reflects that simple, practical spirit admired for some 200 years. The trucker's Paunch. On this day in 1976, they are looking at a very dry England. Britons found a way to cool overheated pigs. Paris bus drivers refused to drive bake-oven hot buses. And Europe's crop-killing heat wave and drought seared in Monday with a few isolated breaks. Portugal began cutting off electric power for regular periods because there was too little water to run hydroelectric plants. Barges on Germany's rivers sailed 1/3 full because the river was so low. Dutch troops began tapping Dutch canals to irrigate crops. They tapped them. Throughout nearly all of continental Europe, Britain and Ireland, the worst drought in generations remained essentially unbroken. At Britain's biggest farm show, the Archbishop of York, Dr. Stuart Blanche, repeated Pope Paul's Sunday call for prayers for rain to break the drought. Raymond Wheatley Hubbard worried more about pigs. Pigs cannot sweat, said Wheatley Hubbard, in charge of the 484 pigs entered in the show, and so they are more vulnerable. He recommended daubing a little vinegar behind their ears like eau de cologne for a woman to cool their tiny overheated brains. Do you think a pig has a tiny overheated brain? In Paris, however, bus drivers found no way to cool overheated cabs, and many drivers stayed home for the 4th day in a row. Sudden thunderstorms broke in several areas, but in some places the crusted earth couldn't absorb the rain, and destructive flash floods followed. 4 persons died in North Portugal in floods following violent thunderstorms. The drought in Britain and France is the worst since 1725. Officials in Britain, France, Germany, and Italy, and other nations speak of large percentage of many crops already lost, livestock slaughtered by the millions early for lack of feed, and higher food prices to come. Water rationing has been imposed in some areas and is being considered in others. I'm thinking about turning off your spigot. Restrictions exist almost everywhere. Near Louvain, Belgium, a man was fined $150 Monday for sprinkling his lawn. Okay, time for another break here. Look at this IGA ad. 1976, money-saving frozen food values. Swanson Frozen TV dinners, turkey or fried chicken. They gave you a fried, there was like one drumstick on it. 11.5-ounce package for 69 cents. The Taste of Sea frozen seafood platter 9-ounce package, 79 cents. Coronet all-natural ice cream. This is Hood's ice cream. Half gallon, $1.39. Swanson frozen mac and cheese, $1. Mrs. Paul's frozen fish parmesan, 10-ounce package for 49 cents. And Hood's popsicles for just 69 cents, a 12-count. Those would be good over in Europe when they're all heating up too much. What else was on? I thought a lot of this food is probably still stuck on somebody's body somewhere. Sugar wafers, 2 8-ounce packages for 89 cents. Angel ring table treat. That was the thing you put on the Lazy Susan, sliced it up and spun it around. Everybody took a slice. Fig Newtons, 16-ounce package, 79 cents. And Nutter Butters from Nabisco, 75 cents. You could have some kind of picnic. What about Vienna sausage for 39 cents? Wax beans for 45 cents. Jellied candies, 90. Spaghetti Chef Boyardee, 89 cents for 2 cans. This is why obesity became such a problem in America. Then if you were going to throw on the top of the cart, mustard, 25 cents. Keg ketchup, 89 cents. Tomato juice, 49 cents. And Armor Treat, 99 cents for a 12-ounce can. I don't know what that is. Does that be like a Spam thing? There are some coupons there you could clip, too, to get some trash bags and such. Well, we thought this was interesting. Up in Holton, Maine, there were 10,000 people turned out for the 4th of July parade. In Thomaston, Maine, sunny skies with temperatures well into the 80s greeted an estimated 8,000 viewers for Thomaston's annual 4th of July parade. And I believe I was attending at that one as a young boy. Officials said this year's effort, with 143 units, including 34 floats, was the largest in the town's history. I remember it was hot. There were marching bands and color guard units, and walking units of families dressed in colonial costume. Members of the Lower St. George Militia Unit fired a loud volley in front of the judges' stand as a salute to the bicentennial. Several antique aircraft from the Owl's Head Museum, including a Cordis pusher and several double wingers, flew overhead. And as a memorial to the late Ralph Klein of Clark Island, the famed patriot, a passengerless convertible with Klein's photo on the side passed in review. I think I remember him hanging out in the kitchen, too. I might have some weak memories. A small child was perched on the back, waving a flag. Klein, who died last year, had been an annual participant in the Thomaston Parade as a representative of the World War I veterans. Several politicians took advantage of the parade as a means to meet constituents. The Democrats and Republicans entered floats, with the Knox County Democratic Committee receiving a first-place trophy in the most original float category. 4 persons apparently were overcome by the heat and fainted. An ambulance in the parade was diverted at Knox and Main streets to transport one of the victims. Police Chief Robert Hofacker estimated the crowd at 8,000, with viewers lined the entire length of the parade route. We were at that little center place there. There's a little park in the middle. That's where we were. First and second places for floats were, and then it goes on and gives the list of winners. Here's a story from that was the parade. Okay, let's go on to the technology piece here. The glass wire may carry phone calls. This is, again, 1976. It's a story out of San Francisco. If the telephone company has its way, light beams traveling through glass filaments will carry future conversations. Copper wires and electricity as media for transmitting signals by cable probably will be out of date on the Bell telephone system's main trunks sometime in the 1980s. They were off by quite a bit. We just got fiber here a few years ago. The savings in copper alone could be tremendous for a corporation the size of American Telephone and Telegraph. The Bell system uses 500 million pounds of increasingly expensive copper wire every year. On the other hand, glass fibers are made from inexpensive sand. The laser beam system relies on the ability of hair-thin, continuous glass fiber to carry a beam of light up down and around corners and on the ability of a laser to produce 45 million pulses of light per second. That's according to Dr. Marie Diamonico Jr. Another doctor at the Bell System Research Arms Atlanta Laboratory described progress in exploratory development testing at a recent San Diego conference on laser and electric optical systems. Tests under simulated field conditions in Atlanta are working out very well. We're hoping that by the early 1980s, we can introduce optical fibers into the telephone system. We like to think the job is doable. Isn't that something? 1976. Okay, we're going to roll it back further here. This is 1934, July 6, 1934. Expect the man's recovery after heart operations. A story out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The heart of George Hampton, age 41, stabbed with a paring knife 10 days ago, beat strongly enough Thursday to permit Hampton to sit up in a wheelchair. Doctors lifted the heart out of its position and took 2 stitches in it. Hampton is expected to recover. Can you believe that? They did that in 1934. I hope he was out for that operation. Beer drinkers in the state of Connecticut will have to do their drinking in taverns under bright lights and in comparative silence beginning July 10th, 1934. A liquor commission ruling effective on that date bars soft lights in all forms of music as well as advertisements, signs, curtains, and other obstructions in the windows of taverns. So they wanted just a glass viewing to see the people in there trying to sip a beer. Bright lights. One more ad here for you. This is a good one. Montgomery Ward. You know the push mower with the little spindles in the middle that is all manual push? That was on sale at Montgomery Ward for $3.98. And it has ball bearings, 4 self-sharpening blades cut a clean 14-inch swath. And I'll tell you something, a little secret. Those blades do not self-sharpen. Okay, I'm speaking that from experience. Kitchen utensils were 5 cents. Croquet sets were 98 cents, and that was a 4-ball set, priced low for this sale. Montgomery Ward. Black hose, 25 feet, 89 cents. And milk pails, which you can never have enough of, were 3 for 89 cents. Heavy 10-quart milk pails, a bargain at this price. I would say 3 for 89 cents. Good old milk pails. If you wanted to outfit the living room, a 3-piece tapestry suite was $57.88, and it was all tapestry. Can you believe it? At Ward's low price, big Davenport and 2 roomy chairs. So it was a couch and 2 chairs. I wonder if those are still around. Here's a ring and washer for $29.95, a quart of Rambler motor oil for 10 cents, and a car battery for $2.49. Work shirts were 44 cents, and Kleenex was 19 cents. It seems like Kleenex was expensive then. Here's another story about hordes of parasite flies are to be released by the State Forestry Department in Maine to prey upon the swarms of tent caterpillars that are infesting many sections of Maine. The caterpillars are stripping leaves from thousands of acres of hardwood trees and are particularly thick at Harpswell, Damascotta, Medway, Waltham, Calais, and around Island Falls. The flies are about 1/5 the size of a housefly. They lay eggs in the caterpillar itself or in its cocoon. When the eggs hatch, the grubs feed on the caterpillars. I don't know if they're still doing that today. Okay, here's our feature story. This is from 1934. The Cape Porpoise sea serpent. It was found to be a basking shark. 2 fishermen catch the harmless shark, rumored to be a dangerous sea monster. Now it's rare off the coast of Maine. I don't think they're extremely rare, but they do see them from time to time. All through May and up to mid-June, fishermen from Biddeford Pool to Gunquit had been bringing in stories of a monster sea serpent. Of course, such tales, just at the beginning of the vacation season, have been taken with a customary grain of salt, but when veterans such as Bob Wilds, Willis Mitchell, the Noonans, Stinsons, and others who have spent their lives in the fisheries added their confirming voices, well, it certainly had folks wondering. That's when Henry Strader, wealthy sportsman of New York and Kentucky with a summer home in Perkins Cove, and George Weir, they declared that they, too, had sighted the monster, and one could hardly laugh the matter off. Strader and Weir are the premier giant tuna fishermen with rod and line on the Maine coast. By their technique last summer, they landed, or perhaps killed would be better, 16 of the monsters. They're talking about the tuna fish. It must be confessed that some of the lobstermen who set their pots fairly near the shore have been a trifle uneasy. One would hardly care to meet up with a genuine sea serpent when the only weapon on the boat is a short gaff for catching lobster pot buoys. And this particular serpent has always been seen close to shore and on the surface. At last, however, the mystery is solved. Arnold Stinson and George Noonan of this place have captured the monster after a 12-hour fight, and it's not a sea serpent at all, but a creature almost as rare. When they went off in their, we got to get that other line. Apologies here. When they went off in their powerboat early in the evening, a few days ago to haul some mackerel nets, they had no thought of catching more than mackerel. But as they began getting in the twine, they met unexpected opposition. Some monster of the deep struggled and thrashed and tore great holes in their expensive sign. Finally, they got a glimpse of it. "The sea serpent," they both exclaimed in a breath. At first, they were disposed to leave their seine and put out for home, but no fisherman likes to lose his valuable gear, so they decided to fight for their property. Occasionally, in the darkening evening shadows, they caught a glimpse of a great shape at least 35 feet long. "If we can lift its tail," shouted Noonan, "maybe we can slow down its thrashings." So they devoted their energies to getting in that part of the net in which the flailing tail was fast. Soon they had it partly out of the water. Making the net fast, they tried to tow their prize home, but the prize did not propose to be towed, so all through the night the battle raged. First, the two men would gain a few hundred feet, then the monster would regain its strength and tow them back to sea against the boat, net and all. Many times they despaired of ever getting their quarry near enough shore to identify it, but exactly 10 o'clock the next morning, they had their fighting foe close to the land at Cape Porpoise Harbor. A falling tide did the rest and left it high and dry, where it soon died. That's pretty sad, isn't it? No such fish had ever been brought in before. Even retired Captain Frank Noonan, veteran of many a battle on George's Bank with fighting swordfish, failed to identify it. Finally, a Portland Bureau of Fisheries man came out and identified it as the rare basking shark, or bone shark, as it is sometimes known. It measured nearly 30 feet in length, and its estimated weight was 7,000 pounds, or 3 tons and a half. This shark is a native of the northern seas and almost never comes to New England shores. The last one reported was captured at Martha's Vineyard 14 years ago. Yet before the coming of the white man, this monster was a regular inhabitant of the Gulf of Maine. It was sufficiently abundant to support a regular fishery up to 1820, but it's now very rare indeed. It was valued solely for the liver oil, individual fish yielding from 80 to 200 gallons, while yields of 400 to 500 gallons from the larger ones were not unusual. When cut open, pails of red feed or minute crustacea upon which the tiny sardine herons feed floated out of its stomach. It's kind of complicated. Ordinarily, the basking shark is a sluggish, inoffensive fish, helpless of attack because of its single row of very small teeth. In its wanderings, it got snarled up in the mackerel net, and the more it struggled, the more it became entangled. There is one of the largest known sharks being This is one of the largest known sharks, being even larger than the dreaded man-eater or white shark. From its habit of basking in the sun on the surface, they have doubtless been responsible for many an early-day sea serpent story. 2 or 3 of them, swimming tandem, would have all the essentials for an honest-to-goodness sea serpent. Crowds are visiting Cape Porpoise daily and will continue to do so until the summer sun and the workings of nature make it necessary to tow the shark outside and sink it. Well, all right, that's about it, isn't it? I can write down to the bottom of the page here. Okay, that's our podcast for today then. Until next time, this is Downeast Mike, and I'm wishing you and your loved ones a day that is full of grace, love, and kindness. We'll see you.
Don't feel sorry for me. I'm just a seal on the rocks in Maine. Some say I'm sick because I've got fish on my brain. The shark. Oh, he's a biter for sure. I've got faith, I can swim. I can swim forevermore. Well, there's fish and there's fish, but there's always a cold dish. And if you draw me a tin, oh, I know that I'll dig in, 'cause I'm a seal on the coast of Maine. I'm a seal. Oh God, here comes the shark. Oh, he's a biter for sure. And I've got faith, and I can swim the shark. I'm just a seal on the rocks. I'm not your snack. Don't worry, the dolphins have my back.